All right, first thing we're going to do is I want to tell you a little bit about the project. First of all, on this dresser, this is the base. The mirror is actually right here. Also, the top, I've already sanded down and stained it with Dixie Belle's No Paint Gel Stain Pickling White. And that really came out great. Let me see if I can show you. It's just kind of it's a whitewashed looking wood, and it's sanded really nice, looks great. We're not going for perfection, but I am going for more of a washed, aged look on this, and that's where the whitewash comes into play for this project. The base has already been painted. Well, I cleaned it with white lightning, then 2 coats of gray bonding boss, and then I did 2 coats of Weeping Willow. Weeping Willow is a nice, subtle, soft, like vintage greenish teal. I don't know about teal, but I just felt like it was a perfect color for this project. And what I'm going to do is use Whitewash Glaze, and that Whitewash Glaze is going to help tone that color down, not that it needs it. And then also it's going to get trapped in all the crevices and hiding places for that color. So that's really what we're looking for. And when we're done, it's just going to have a nice soft look. And I love how on these dressers they have these little panel sections, and the whitewash will be trapped in there. So I want to showcase that tonight. Also tonight, I'm going to, if time permitting, I'll keep an eye on the clock. I like to use the Silk Screen Stencil. This is a mandala, but I'm probably going to use something like this piece section right here on the side of the drawers. Just really small and subtle, not a big wow factor, but I think it'd be great, at least on the top row, that when they open it up, there's a little decorative element there. I think that'll look. All right, well, we have a mission tonight, and that is to get some glaze on this piece, and I am ready to go if you are. I like to use gloves only because the glaze contains top coat in there. I think what I would probably say is you probably have at least, well, a small portion of top coat in there, and that's why it kind of feels kind of different than paint. But when you're done, it should have a little bit of a sheen to it, and that is the top coat in the glaze. And with that in mind, I just don't like having sticky hands when I'm done. I do have some other things around, and that I would recommend you have is a nice damp cloth. I'll use this to wipe off any excess. You'll also want to have a misting bottle, because I usually mist before I do this. You can do glaze over top coat, but I never do that. I like to do the top coat afterwards, but that's totally optional on how you do that. Debatable what brushes you want to use. I have a flat small and also an oval small. You can use a variety of brushes to accomplish this. It all depends on how you want to smooth out that paint, if at all. For example, we could just apply the glaze and then just wipe it off. We can apply the glaze and then just wipe it off, and that's what I'm going to do first, but I have an extra brush handy in case I need to work on that, okay? So we're going to focus on this panel, and if we need to, we will do the other side. And the front's not as exciting. There's not a lot of catch points for that glaze, except for maybe in the middles in here, but we could do that. And if we have time, we may work on the top of the mirror, which is really the showstopper of this project. Okay, so once you kind of get this technique down, it's rinse and repeat, pretty much do it to the whole thing, so I may not spend a ton of time on that. I'd like to show the Silk Screen Stencil too, so we'll just kind of go get this panel done and see where we are. Okay, sound good? All right, first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to mist it and then get our glaze out. And put as little or as much of this as you want, but I do recommend that you work on a wet surface so that it doesn't start penetrating. Well, we'll say this, the wetter the surface, the smoother or slicker this is going to be an easier to wipe off. If you work off a dry surface, it's really just going to jump right into that chalk paint, and that's okay too if that's what you want. I'd like to go with more of an easier wipe off. Does that make sense? Not that that's an official term or anything. So that's probably a good amount to at least start with, and then we'll, I would start that way before you go too far, just to see how the paint and the glaze are working together. Before, like by the time you get to the bottom, if you don't wipe it off, it's going to start setting in. Can you already see? You should be able to already see the tone or the kind of almost weathered feel that the top has, contrary to the bottom. And it's just giving it a little bit of a tone. Now, the reason why I had the other brush out was if you felt like you needed to soften any areas. This is the only challenging part right now, is that this misting that I'm doing could get on a previously painted area. So that's the biggest drawback to working with the misting bottle to get it wet, is that you could hit another area. So maybe cover it up with your hand or with a rag or something, but you could get some spots on previous areas. I actually don't mind it sometimes because I feel like it gives it this a little bit more texture to it. Do my best to keep my head out of the project. Sometimes I get in the way and the camera doesn't know what to do. And I just can't win. It wants to autofocus on me and not the project, so I apologize for that. But it's just really a nice look. Gives it a nice age. I can tell when it's not wet enough. I feel like I'm dry painting. That's not the feel you want. You want it to be slick and move easily. So here we're going to take a little less aggressive wipe off approach and try not to wipe off as much. But really you do want to make sure that you're keeping consistent with your technique. Like don't super scrub down here and lightly scrubbed at the top. They're not going to match. And if you try and apply glaze later, you're going to be putting 2 coats of glaze on. The same goes with your rag. Like you might have a couple rags handy, but if one rag is super wet and the other one's dry, you're going to get different approaches. I will tell you that I've done this with a dry rag, and it also has a different feel. You're going to wipe off less, but that's not a bad thing. I just love that look when the white glaze gets trapped in. So again, you should have a little bit of that white edge showing. You can see it on the side. Looks like I've got a little bit of extra right there. So again, just you pick your rag, pick your wipe off medium, whatever works for you. I'm just gonna kind of wipe that little extra off. So yeah, there you go. Look how fast that worked out. Don't kill yourself if it's not perfect. Maybe just look for things you may have missed that need some attention, but let that glaze just kind of do its thing in the corners, and that's all she wrote. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of work between these frames here. Let's mist this side. I think we need to see this done. I'm not going to use as much glaze this time. I wiped off too much glaze, and part of that's because the glaze mixes with the water, and I was making soup in some places. Just a light coat, enough to get in the crevices, low areas, cracks, all that stuff. And then we're going to move on to the side of the drawer. I think that'll finish us out tonight. Back to our rag. You have to take a little bit of time to get into the crevices. So I'm almost dabbing in there. what the piece really needs. And sometimes it needs. Now I can tell that this side has way more glaze than this side, so I may be regretting not putting more in there. So I guess I'm gonna have to balance it out. I can't have half of it extra glazed and the other half not. So I always say try to be consistent. So we'll add a little bit more in there. This time I'm gonna try not to wipe as much off in the crevices. So what do y'all think? You like that look? Have you done anything like that before? That's looking better. Okay, so what I have is the Silk Screens Mandala. Okay, so this is the one I was saying we could do there. It's a little large. It's bigger than the top of the drawer, so I'm not sure that I'm fond of that. And this style isn't really the look I'm going for. If you think about the top of the mirror, that's not this style. I think something a little scrolly would be nicer, but what I had my eye on was this right there. I felt like that was gonna be a spot-on option for me. So what I'm actually gonna do is tape off section I don't want to put silk screen through. Okay, you see the tape now? The tape is just to keep me in there without going off stencil. These silk screens already come with a sticky back, so that's really great. What I'm gonna do, I think I'm going to keep the silk screen as my guide here. So this space, I wonder if we could just butt it up right to the back and just let that be our gap. You could cut these up if you want. You don't have to use them together, but they store a little nicer that way. I think that's okay, right? I mean, I don't know, there's no rules here. The next thing that I like to have is Dixie Belle's Thingamajig. See if the Thingamajig wants to focus, probably not. It's just a rubber piece of rubber, and it allows you to scrape paint in there. If you don't have that, the package comes with a card that does the same, that can do the same idea. I just like the Thingamajig, it's a little softer. So you can see I just dipped into the paint a little bit. You don't need a lot. And I'm scraping at an angle. You see, I'm kind of just doing that. And you still have paint all over this thing, so you can move paint around. When you're done with using these, you want to rinse them out and use, I usually use some Dawn dish soap and clean them off as much as possible. You probably can get several uses out of this before they just get filled up with paint. Pretty cool. The lighting probably affects how well it's coming through, but there you go, you see it's darker. Let's do the other side. There is a little bit of paint on the other side of this silk screen, so keep that in mind. Meaning, since I squeezed paint through, there's probably going to be a little bit of paint, but we'll see. Let's see how the second application works. I may not do an entire run in one set, but that would be the most efficient. Just go ahead and get them all done. And I'm not sure that I'm doing all the drawers. I might just do the top row. I don't think that's uncommon. It's just to kind of bedazzle the top row only. And then peel it off. It's so crisp, so clean. Let me see if I can show you closer. There you go. Isn't that great? Again, you can get it closer. I just chose to use the stencil as my spacer, and I think that works, right? But yeah, I hope that gives you some practical examples how the silk screen works. And like I said, the Thingamajig is a nice little tool. If not, use the white card that comes with the product. All right, so what I have next is I need to finish the glazing on all the pieces. There's another insert that holds the mirror that goes in that frame. Need to get the front of this piece done. After that, I think I need to top coat everything. The top has one layer of top coat just to keep it protected while I'm working on it. and then I'll put another coat or two on that and finish it out. When it's done, I'm really excited how lovely it's all going to work together. The whitewash, the stencils on the side, the Weeping Willow color, it's just going to look like it's meant to be, like it's nice and aged, and that's the look I'm going for. And don't forget, maybe a little bit of distressing. We'll see how it goes. Well, I think that's it for me tonight. Thank you so much for joining me here in the Bowtie Treasure Studio. I'm Aaron. Have a great week. Do something awesome. Be creative. Until next time, we'll see you later.
That's the end of the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell before you go. Bye.